morning. Talking about Hurricane Erin. I'm meteorologist James Hopkins from 10 Tampa Bay, and joining me, of course, is Robert Spetta from First Coast News. We're going to talk about the tropics, and something you and I have been talking about all week, really since last week, is you guys did feel some of those impacts from Hurricane Erin. And over the last couple of days, you've had some rough surf and stuff like that. What have you been dealing with? What are you seeing right now as well?
Hey, yeah, that's the big thing out here right now, James, and it's been the case over the last few days, is all about the waves. And even from the start, you know, we were saying we're not going to get a direct hit here on the First Coast or the state of Florida. Time and time again, you know, that's what we were really stressing here. It was going to be about the rip currents. It was going to be about the waves out here. And now, yeah, we're kind of seeing the end result of that. We did get some moderate beach erosion. Last night we had a few spots that reported a little bit of tidal flooding, but in general, not a lot of rain to really speak of outside of a few coastal showers and some breezy conditions. Yesterday, I was in St. Augustine covering the waves out there, and to be quite frank, I had one person walk past me. They were very obviously a tourist. They had an English accent. They were visiting from out of town there in St. Augustine, and they said, "Oh, what? There's a hurricane offshore?" And I was like, yeah. So, you know, it is what it is. I do want to show you some images, though. Let's put me up on the full screen here, because I will give you a little quick look at what we have going on out here. Let's flip it over, because I got a couple images from our weather watchers, and this one's one of my favorites right here. That is not the right source, guys. That is a 7-day forecast. But hey, while I got that up and they try to figure out behind the scenes, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you know, we're still going to be looking at a weather impact alert, because as Erin pulls away, we got some scattered showers and thunderstorms in our forecast, just kind of that trailing trough behind it. So we're going to be looking at that instability. But here you go. There we go. So this is a nice image sent to us from Brenda. This was out in Fernandina Beach. Just the surfers were getting at it, James. Mm-hmm. But James, I could tell you, James, do you surf, first of all?
I tried when I was younger. I decided to give it up. Not for me.
Yeah. I do not surf, but I could tell you I was talking to a bunch of just experienced surfers, and they were saying it was not a good time out there yesterday. There was big waves, but it was a lot of just washing machine type of waves there. So, yeah, you know, not really the best. Now I want to switch over and go back to my stuff here, because I just want to show you a couple other images from our weather watchers here of some beach erosion in Fernandina Beach. There you go. So in Fernandina Beach, this is from Christine here, and this is what we've been talking about. It's when you go to the beach, you see that deep drop off. That's because as those breakers came in, it really just smacked and washed away parts of the beach, and especially in these areas where we just had some recent beach replenishment. So yeah, that's kind of our biggest impacts here on our neck of the woods. This is a beautiful sunrise photo somebody sent in this morning as well out there at Fernandina Beach. Just showing there at the piers and stuff. You still have some waves kind of getting whacked, but in general, we're down to about 4 to 5 feet versus you see some of those buoys off towards the north at about 20 to 30 feet, and that's still going to be the case as this heads off towards the north from places like Nova Scotia, there into the Canadian Maritimes and up and down the northeast. So still some tidal flooding possible, but actually less likely. The rip current risk is dropping off, and it looks like this storm really just moving away. James, before I toss it back to you, though, I do want to show this graphic, and this is my favorite right here, right now, because there was just so many people arguing with me about this heading towards the west, and they were saying, you should be ashamed. This is going to hit Florida. And I was like, trust the Mets, guys. Mm-hmm. This is going to make that turn towards the north. That's what that forecast is all about, James.
Right. It's because it's the one model run that unfortunately non-meteorologists who like to post on Facebook, and you're going to get them. You're going to get them all the time. You'll get one run out of one of the next systems we have, and we're going to get to that in a minute because we have another one back behind this, but this one looks to be even further away than Erin did. But you always get that one model run that's kind of that outlier that they want to post. It's all about the clicks and the likes. That's why you always come back here to us, and we'll show you all of it. We put it all together, and it's about the consensus of the forecast models. And Erin did follow pretty close to that. There was a few times you see that cone kind of shifting a little bit, but it never went too far outside of the cone, which was good news because, as expected, it passed by between Bermuda and the Outer Banks of North Carolina, something we've been saying since last week that we expected it to do. Last week's models had a little closer to Bermuda than it actually went. It did shift a little bit to the west, but not what some of the other outlier forecast models have shown. So that's good news. Also good news is North Carolina dealing with the worst of it right now. It's all going to get better for them as we go throughout the day today, and same for them up there as the beach erosion is more than likely going to last into tomorrow as this pulls away. Currently we're looking at 100-mile-per-hour winds. It's moving to the north-northeast at 18 miles an hour. Did pick up a mile an hour there. Also did slow with the wind speeds. It was 105 earlier this morning. And the good news is that the forecast models yesterday had it going back up to a Cat 3. And then the very next run took it back down to a 2. So it never did make it back to Cat 3 status. It did get 110 yesterday. And again, luckily for that. Now, we do have hurricane hunters in there right now. But unfortunately, I got to tell you something here. Chief Meteorologist Bobby Deskins was supposed to go on this flight this morning. But unfortunately, his flight got canceled. And if you'll notice the track, this one actually, they did, the backup took off. And it came from Biloxi. And unfortunately, Bobby did not get to go on that. Had a generator on one of the engines go out, and it's not a good idea unless that plane is 100% to put that thing into a hurricane. But here is the latest run, and look at your middle bar now, 948. So the pressure, central pressure, did drop just a little, but looking at 104-mile-per-hour winds. And so again, we'll get the latest with all of that. So like you were talking about us yesterday and a little bit in today, you see some of that drier air that's back behind it. But you see this right here. Look, stretching from New York all the way down through Dallas. That's a cold front. And that cold front is going to help give this a push on out. It'll speed up. But that cold front will help bring us a little bit of rain as we go into, again, the weekend.
You know what I've been telling people, James, is that if this was 1 month later, we would be talking about a serious cool down. And you can see it with that front. It's just not strong enough. It's not late enough in the season to kind of bring that autumnal air. But that interaction helping to trigger up those thunderstorms here across the entire state of Florida.
Well, you know, here in Southwest Florida, autumn is when you go from 91 as your average daytime high to 89. So
we'll take it. Get that pumpkin spice ready to go. I'll take it.
Absolutely. But unfortunately, we're not even looking at that. So again, this is going to be moving its way up and past, and things are really starting to get active here in the tropics. You see the 100-mile-per-hour winds, 260 miles to the east of Cape Hatteras, and that has been gaining. At one time early this morning, it was about close to 200 miles. So now it's again picked up. So watches and warnings. We still have the tropical storm warning up the coast of the Carolinas all the way to South New Jersey, and a tropical storm watch there for Bermuda. So again, here is the latest forecast, and you zoom in, you see how far away it is from us. Now expected to be weakening to a Category 1 this afternoon. That's good news there. And here's something, Robert, it's going to be interesting. It's heading its way towards Iceland. I'm going to show you the spaghetti plots in a minute, but these are the kind of storms we like to watch as, of course, they're moving their way away from us. So this is one when things start to calm down for you, and of course the coast of the Carolinas, it'll be something that's nice to watch. It's going to be a remnant low, but look at these spaghetti models and what they do with this system as we go into next week. It takes a second here for this thing to load, but
that's all right. Yeah, I mean. Definitely some big waves for the British Isles, though, especially west coast of Ireland, parts of Scotland there. they're going to be looking at breakers out there along their western seaboards, 20, 25 feet. Because the spaghetti plots are great, but the one thing is once you get out to that point, this wind field is just going to be massive. I'm curious about any ships out there in the North Atlantic, how this is like those ships go through the North Atlantic storms aren't going to stop them, but oof, it's going to be a rough go out there.
And the North Atlantic is typically just rough as it is, so you can imagine how it's going to be with this thing pushing its way through. So that'll definitely be pretty interesting. And you were talking about the winds, yeah, a little gusty still as we go throughout the day today. Yours not going to be too bad. We're not looking at much here either, but again, up the coast, you can see St. Augustine at about 11 miles per hour, same as us. Look at Hatteras, still 43, and over towards Bermuda, still looking at 50s. And then we go into tomorrow afternoon. So there it starts to die down a little bit. So throughout the day on Friday, they start to get more of a northeast flow there up towards Hatteras, and then it just dies down as we go throughout the weekend, which, of course, is great news for them. You showed the cone history on that one. And again, we're looking at this one moving up and out, so that's good news. But again, we got a lot of stuff here to talk about, Robert, because we have things, again, this is the time of year we're in that section. Of course, we have the peak of hurricane season on September the 10th, but we're now getting to the fact where things are really starting to get active, and you see what we got going on right now.
Yeah. I mean, this is that moderate chance of development now with that wave coming in off of Africa. There's that low area there towards the east of Bermuda. I'm not concerned about that whatsoever. And to be honest with you, I'm going to be quite frank on my thoughts here, James. I don't know about you. I'm not really concerned for the state of Florida about any of these areas out here. I think that, they definitely deserve to be watched. They deserve to be monitored. But it looks like Erin kind of is clearing a bit of a path for these ones that kind of follow around the Bermuda High and kick off towards the north. And outside of an early couple model runs, I haven't seen anything that would suggest like a Gulf-type storm there. But, I mean, right here you can see that potential for development and this kind of moving towards north. And since Erin is digging that big a hole and plowing through that Bermuda High, this area is going to kind of follow behind it. If Erin didn't exist, I would definitely be worried about Florida with this. But it's a lot more than just looking at the models. A lot of people say we just look at the models. It's kind of getting you an idea of what's happening out there in the atmosphere there, James.
Well, you're absolutely right, because without Erin, what this system would need to do is find that balance. And it's finding the balance between the low that's Erin and that ridge of high pressure, and it's going to follow, like you said, right up behind it. But the good news with this one is when we see some development possibly over the weekend where Erin is, and that possibly, and the good news for us, keeps that shifted a little bit further over towards Bermuda. So we'll take a look here at this one right here is the GFS. So as you can see, here's the area. Of course, there it is in red. You see what's up towards the north there. And, again, that is Erin still working its way out. And, again, this is going to follow kind of back up behind it as we go throughout the next couple of days, showing the potential for this one to maybe see a depression as we go throughout the weekend. So there is the area, of course. It's all this. So anywhere within here it could develop. It could develop down here, or maybe wait till it gets all the way up towards Bermuda. Again, this is the GFS model. Watch it kind of develop pretty much in the middle area there. So we'll start to see that closed circulation here, and that's going into Sunday. But again, look at where we are here in Florida, and look at, should overlay the track there of Erin. Erin was a lot closer to Turks and Caicos before making that turn. And then look what happens as we go into early next week. Look how close the proximity it is to Bermuda. And you can see there, that one's a lot closer. Now, again, we did see forecast models like this showing the same scenario with Erin, but mind you, those weren't 4 days out. Those were 8, 9, 10 days out. This is a lot sooner that it's showing this, and forecast models are kind of agreeing. Of course, they're going to go back and forth just a little bit, but you're right, it's going to the north, and as Erin tracks, it kind of follows right behind it. So that one right there is the GFS model, and same scenario happens with the European model. So again, got a little bit better news here with the European model. So watch what happens here. A little bit slower to develop, but look at this. As you can see here, there it is. And look at Bermuda. Look how far to the east this one is. So this one's a little bit better scenario. This has been fairly consistent. The European showing this model, showing this one going to the east of Bermuda, and there it is, Sunday into Monday. You see again where Bermuda is right here, and to the east of that. And you've been following this one as well, Robert. You seeing the same thing?
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you break down the ensembles, so if you look at kind of all the different models embedded within the European and the GFS, they run these models like 31 times, and what we're looking at is the average of that. You don't really even see much outliers coming out of it either. So I think the big thing is that, yeah, this is everybody's attention is on kind of on high alert, but just deep breaths. This is all going to stay off towards our east and even further east than Erin was, and a much weaker storm. Even for Bermuda, I'm sure they're probably like, like it's going to be kicking by. Maybe if anything, a tropical depression or a tropical storm at its worst.
Yeah.
Well, towards our east. I think big thing is. Yeah, you know what another thing, by the way, James, just real quick, is the fact that Erin did just kind of move through this area, and it caused a lot of upwelling, so the sea surface temperature is kind of dropping down a little bit too. So less energy for any area coming in behind us, but I'm seeing something very similar to all the guidance I've been looking at.
Yeah, where you're not going to have as warm of those surface temperatures for this next one to follow behind for that rapid intensification that Erin did. And that was crazy going from last time we spoke on Friday to Saturday morning, wake up Saturday morning, and Erin was a Cat 5 storm. So don't think that's going to happen with this one here. And again, some models show it a depression, like you said, maybe a tropical storm, maybe having a name by early next week. But you see the European model just not putting it together too much until it really starts to run in, and then you can see it actually merges with a front that's going to be up there. So that's the good news with that one. Again, it warrants watching. Anything that we see in the tropic does warrant watching. But again, for that one, things are looking pretty good. And now they have had to invest on this one over the course of the past couple of days. This one, a 40% potential for tropical development. This one coming off the coast of Africa, and only a 40% over the next 7 days. And again, kind of the same scenario. These other two systems, Erin and maybe the one back behind it, is going to help this one get pushed down to the south. It's really about Erin and that ridge making that shift to the east and to the south. That's actually going to give this one quite the push. This one, it does have an invest on it. And look at the separate forecast models, and you can see the Euro and the GFS. Now, the GFS is the one that's the AP. And I don't see any Euro in here. The Euro doesn't even like this one to become anything at all, which is wonderful news.
Yeah, and the fact that some of the models are keeping it further south also kind of indicates in a kind of forensic sense that it would be a weaker storm, because typically these storms like to track a little bit further towards the south if they're not as strong. If they're stronger, they can combat with that Bermuda high off there towards the north. So you see kind of this westward trend. It is indicating, at least for the initial forecast of this, that would be a weaker area. Weaker, further south, stronger, probably going to see this head off towards the north. But, each storm is its own thing, right? But the fact that we're not seeing the European, I've been looking at some of the models here, I'm not really even seeing the Euro pick up on it. And the Euro has, in my humble opinion, been beating out the GFS in that long-range forecast here over the past few months. I'm not concerned, but I'm not concerned when it comes to guidance.
Right.
But there is that initial convection over an area that has been fertile for tropical development, and it's moving, at least in the relatively warmer waters. It's one of those times where maybe the runs aren't picking up on it now, but they could kind of tap in if it maintains some sort of sense of low pressure and convection out of it. And, I mean, yeah, you can see some of that right there. There you go. This kind of out toward – if I was in the Windward Islands, I wouldn't be getting ready for a long cruise on my sailboat anytime soon out there.
Yeah, exactly. And this one, of course, is all the different forecast models. The one earlier I showed you was just the runs of the GFS and the European, again, the ones that we like to really watch. But this is all the other ones. And there are some of these forecast models that are better on intensity, some are better on track, which is why we show you all of these. But the thing that you need to really look at is a lot of these, I mean, look how they don't go very far before dying out. Some of them take it, again, close to the windwards there, and then again, some of these others take it into the Caribbean before dying. And most of them show maybe Monday into Tuesday. And again, this is actually a little bit further north than some of the other models were showing, or the other earlier model runs were actually showing. Look at this one going towards Aruba, and they had some other ones that actually just pushed that one inland. And so again, this one, another one that's not really a big concern as of right now. Models really don't like that one. You just saw, again, those things kind of dying out. We have some dust in there. And again, this one's getting a little bit pushed further to the south due to that area of high pressure. But you can see here how much dust we have in the area right now, just to the north of that. So you're right, it's going to go into a little bit more favorable environment, which is why we could potentially have a depression out of this one, maybe going into maybe as early as tomorrow, and then maybe not seeing anything into next week. It could happen to become a tropical storm maybe this weekend, but I think that's really when conditions are going to become less favorable. I mean, look how far down this dust is dipping, and this again is Saturday. And then we'll see, again, that thing just, it's going to follow. It's going to follow right into that dust. So I don't think it's going to have much of a chance, which is why, like we were talking before, this one has a better chance, but it just doesn't look like it's going to strengthen that much. We could potentially have two names by this weekend. It's just, again, one going to the north and one possibly fizzling out is going to be probably what is going to be happening. So take a look here at the Euro. And it really isn't showing much. Again, I just showed you that one up towards the north, but it's not showing much going on here as we go throughout Monday. And you can see here, it's just cleared out. Not really anything.
Yeah, you kind of see a little troughing there, but yeah, and not a hurricane.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
And that's the thing. And really the same thing with the GFS model. I mean, you don't really see much. You see, I mean, it was, I'm sorry, I have to go back and say it was barely a blip. I missed it. And it was very brief. Oh, there it is. So that's the little blip.
Oh, yep, there.
Yep, that's it. And you see, so you pop up the blip, and like we're saying, this is it right here. But watch how quickly it just disappears. So again, not a concern. And again, there's that one going up past Bermuda at this time. So it all means good news. And it's funny, you look at the model comparison and you just really see the same thing. You don't see much at all. You see something with that one that's going to follow right behind Erin. And again, pretty easy to spot Erin on this. But watch it move its way up. And again, back behind that, you do have this little spot. One here, that's the GFS, and there's the Euro. See how far they are apart. Not really seeing much there. And then
and look how much we're kind of digging to find these compared to 2 weeks ago when Erin was straight up in your face, like stacked on top of each other, major hurricane in the models. None of these are indicating that. So I think we can collectively take a deep breath for the time being. Yep. When's the peak of hurricane season? The 10th or the 12th of September?
Yep, so September the 10th. And here I ran this all the way out into next week, next Sunday, excuse me, next weekend. And as you can see, there's really nothing going on in the main development region, nothing really going on in the Caribbean up towards the Gulf. So it's pretty safe to say if we do get something out of either one of these, they're going to be far away from us, which is, again, fantastic news. And something you mentioned about this is something that we always joke about. I mean, look at this little thing. It's tiny.
I call it a super swirl because you can see the low level swirl in there.
Yep.
It's like it's trying so hard.
Yes, poor thing. It's trying. And it does have a good potential over the next couple of days to become a depression. But this one, again, even better news. This one's sliding off towards the east. And this is something that you mentioned last week when we were talking about this, because we're all like, this thing's not going to bother anybody. But you can't forget that this could potentially be in a shipping lane. So it's something you got to keep a close eye on, because that could be a major problem for some of those ships that are coming across the Atlantic heading into maybe a port around Charleston or Jacksonville. That could be a major issue if this thing was to even just be a weak tropical depression.
Yeah, definitely got to kick around it, head off towards the north. And if you go north, you're getting the waves off of Erin. I don't envy anybody out there on a sailboat or even the bigger boats. If we got any military personnel crossing the Atlantic,
yeah,
get that Dramamine ready to go there, guys. It's gonna be bouncy.
Yeah, and again,
so
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, if you want to swing it back to Florida here, we only got about 2 more minutes. Mm-hmm. Just talk about our weekend forecast, if you got anything for that.
Well, what I have is kind of the same thing you do. We have a weather impact alert for tomorrow. We're looking at some higher rain chances. And again, as Erin pulls away, we are looking at some heavier rain coming in. This is going to be for the morning commute, which is something that's not typical here. Normally here, it's just gorgeous in the morning, but we're looking at the potential for some heavy rain. And look at these rain chances for the weekend as well. They're going to be off and on. When we talk about typical summertime pattern here, we talk about that 50%. Little higher for tomorrow and Saturday. And you're dealing with the same thing. Again, when we talk about typical, we talk about 50. You're looking for higher numbers as well for the next 3 days.
Yeah, kind of that trailing thunderstorms, especially tomorrow night. I know high school football is back on. They're in Tampa over here on this side of the state, too. Mm-hmm. We're a little worried about some of the games could be delayed. I think it raining during a football game, especially high school football, is fun to watch.
Oh, yeah.
But that lightning is what you got to be careful about. So that's going to be the big thing tomorrow. You know, not just the storms, but kind of the impact they're going to be having out there, even heading into the weekend. So
yeah,
that's what we're going to be tracking here on our side of the state. And I'm sure your side of the state there as well.